Are you thinking about a remodel in your home? Are you thinking about what is going to give you the biggest return on investment when you go to sell, even if it's 10 years from now? In today's video, I'm going to give you the exact thing you need to be thinking about before you undertake a huge remodeling project. I promise you, this is going to change your whole way of thinking. So when people think about updating, they're only thinking about just updating the space that they have, kind of in the four walls. And it's really important to make sure when you're remodeling that you take into consideration today's lifestyle. Now, today's lifestyle with maybe the younger buyers live differently in a lot of different ways than, me or people who are older than me. We were used to the formal living rooms. You come in the house, there's a formal living room on the right, maybe the dining room on the left. And if you look at those two rooms and you look at all the space that those rooms take up, I mean, it can be like 1,000 square feet of your home that you're not really even using. So the key when you're starting to think about remodeling is what is the space that you have in your home that can be used to maybe break in to another room or open up the space that you currently live in. Now, the biggest mistake I've told you in my other videos that you can do when you go to remodel is taking away bedrooms. So I'm not going to be talking about taking away bedrooms. I'm going to be talking about looking at spaces that you're not using in your house or things to get a little bit creative, like a dining room or a living room or an office, something like that. So the reason I wanted to do this video is because I want to show the importance of thinking bigger and opening up your mind and your creativity to the other rooms that you have in your house. Because if you choose to update your kitchen, and let's say you've got another room next to it that the kitchen could be opened into, most likely that next buyer is going to say, wow, this kitchen, I really like it, but it's not exactly what we're looking for. So then you might have wasted your money. Now, as I talk about the importance of updating your home cannot be understated, but this is really going through the whole time that you live in your home, not just right before you move. So some of these ideas, if you're thinking about doing right before you move, may not be super helpful, but I want you to think about over the course of your lifetime in owning your home. And I want you to think about increasing the value of your home. So one of the examples I'm going to talk about and show you is somebody who reached out to me and asked me if they should update their bathroom. And as you can see in this bathroom, it's separated into the toilet area with the shower, the vanity area, and then there's like a hallway with closets. The homeowner asked me if they should update just the vanity. What should they do? But when I looked at this picture, I thought, wow, that's a really small space for a bathroom and kind of the closet. You have to walk through the closet to get to the bathroom. What I want you to be thinking about is, can you use that whole space that has the toilet, the shower, the vanity, and the closets to make it a little more modern, to make it maybe a little more open, and to not separate the vanity from the bathroom? So that's the first thing I want you to think about, is just what can you do with the space that you have rather than just updating what's already in there. So I'm going to give you an example of a home that is pretty traditional, your typical colonial home. It's got a living room to the right. It's got a dining room to the left. Now, most likely that living room is not being used very much. You can see that there is an opening from the living room into the family room, but it's a very small door. So what is that living room being used for? Is there a TV in there? I don't know, but how is that space being used? In addition, if you look, you see the laundry, you see the kitchen, you see the eating area, but you also see the dining room. Now, I want to ask you, how many of you are using your formal dining room? Maybe not a lot, but how many of you are using your kitchen eating space? Probably every single day. So what I want you to think about in this specific floor plan is you have all of that space there. You have a full laundry room, you have a kitchen, you have a place to eat, and you have that dining room. What if you broke through that dining room and you recreated all of that kitchen space? That would then open up your layout. Now, what if on the right side in the living room, you made the first half of that an office? Maybe you put in French doors and you put in an opening and you opened up the rest into the family room. So now what you're doing is you're creating and adding value by opening up some rooms that you're not using, and you're essentially adding square footage that you were not using before. An office on the first floor is pretty valuable. And so if you have a living room like this one, maybe you want to think about adding that as an office rather than just having it as a living room, which people may not be using. So you guys know that if you need an agent, you know that you can go to the link below, you can scan the QR code. Our goal for the year is that we want to refer out 1,000 agents to sellers across the country. So there's a link below. We vet these people out personally. I am going in, looking at these agents, looking at these profiles. Nobody's paying me to be be in our referral network, we are finding them and we are referring them to you based on the town that you live. So help me get to 1,000 referrals this year by scanning the QR code or going to the link below. Here's another example I want to show you. Now, I've talked to you about my house. We bought it and we've been wanting to do some things. And this is the floor plan of the kitchen, which I want to redo. My husband cooks all the time, as you guys know. And so we wanted to redo this. The kitchen for us is a little tight. Now, it's a pretty good kitchen, actually. The cabinets are nice. The stove is nice. I don't particularly like some of the ways that it's laid out for our purposes. Now, we could go ahead and spend a lot of money and redo this kitchen as is. But what would increase its value is to look and see if there is additional space that we can use in this kitchen in order to make it bigger. So as you can see, there's an entryway into a hallway from the garage with the laundry room right next to it, and then a pantry to the left of it. Now that space could really be much, much bigger. Maybe that could be a full walk-in mudroom pantry with the washer and dryer in there. And maybe we could work the kitchen a little bit more into that space, into that hallway space. So I want you to start looking at some hallway spaces that you have and see if there's a way to maybe integrate it into your room. Now, the other thing that we're thinking about doing, which I have a meeting today with an interior designer who's going to come in with her structural team, we are going to look to see if that staircase can be removed. I know you're saying, what? Are you kidding me? This house really does not need 2 staircases. That is not our main staircase. And so if you look at this diagram, could that staircase be removed? Could that open up the whole kitchen? Could that make this a much larger space? That's what I'm looking for. So she's bringing over her structural engineer and we're going to talk about it and see, is this possible to do? It might not be. But who knows? That's what I want you to start thinking about. What are the spaces you have in your room? So don't just think about remodeling the room as is. Think about making it a better layout for today's living. Hey guys, don't forget, subscribe. I have so much information coming out I don't want you to miss. And if you've liked this video, I'd love to hear your comments. So now here's another floor plan. And one of the problems a lot of times with floor plans is that they have a bathroom in the middle of the kitchen and the family room. If that is the case, it's very hard to open up that wall. It will be very expensive. If you have plumbing, if you have a toilet, it's very hard to move that, and that's very expensive. Now, it can be done, but I'm talking about just maybe opening up some walls that are not load bearing. If you look at this floor plan that we have here, there is a lot of empty space in this whole floor plan. But the way it is right now is that it's very closed off to all the rooms. What if you were able to open up this whole floor plan and kind of give it a little bit of space and air in the way that people live in it? Now, do you think people are really using that front living room? I'm going to say probably not. They're probably spending most of their time in the back family room. And many times in older houses, I see this, is that we are all using our back rooms, the smaller family room, to live in, rather than saying, hey, let's look at all this other space we're not using. Could we put a TV in here? Could we make this an office? So we did that with our previous house. We had a front living room that we were not using as a living room, and we turned it into an office. And that is the way people are living nowadays. So I want you to look at the unused space in your home, and I want you to think, can we use this for something else? Can we repurpose it for today's living? So now I want to show you this house, and I've talked about this one before, but I want you to see how updating one room would maybe not get it sold. So this kitchen was updated by my seller a few years ago. The problem was that it was not open to the family room. So every time somebody came in to look at the house, they thought, wow, the kitchen looks great. However, it's not open to the family room. Now that would have been somewhat of a simple fix to open that up. So now people were looking at a kitchen that was newer thinking, we're still going to have to open this to the family room. So it was going to cost them additional money. So in reality, by this seller updating that kitchen, it didn't actually make him any money when he went to sell. Now, before we get to the most important part of this video, I want to remind you, I have that seller's playbook for you guys to download. We've downloaded almost 10,000 copies of our seller's playbook. Make sure you download it today. So now I want to talk to you about the house that I mentioned to you. It was $800,000 when they bought the home. Here's a picture of it when they bought it. And you can see there was probably some deferred maintenance. It didn't look fantastic. The home, when they bought it, was very, very dated. So it was old. So you can see this kitchen, you can see it's old, and it was pretty small. So if the homeowners had said, we're just going to update this kitchen, they would have just put in new cabinets, they would have put in new floors, and they would have made that a nice kitchen. But what they really did is they started to look at their house as the whole footprint, not just each individual room. And so when they started to do that, they saw that there was a lot of additional space that could be used. And so rather than spending, $100,000 updating their kitchen, they updated their whole house for about $350,000. And what they did is they bumped every room open. They did not add an addition, but they bumped the rooms open. So you can see now what they did in the kitchen. And they used space from the dining room, from the family room, and they moved it into the kitchen. All of the space was already there, but it was just divided by drywall. I mean, it was not structural in what they did. So they took their living room and they bumped it open into another room as well. Now, they did decrease the size of a bedroom. Yes, they did, but it still had the bedrooms in there. So I want you to be thinking about what can you do in your house by maybe bumping into another room to grab that space for today's living. And even in the backyard, you can see that the old backyard was not great. What if they had just decided to replace the deck as is, rather than really thinking about the space that they had and how it would work? Now, when they sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars more because of the work that they had put in. If they had just remodeled the kitchen or remodeled the bathroom, yes, it would have been a nice home. I don't know if they would have gotten out the money that they would have gotten out because they didn't expand into the space. This home was unique. This was functional, and it was what everybody was looking for. So when we went on the market, we sold immediately. So when you're thinking about doing this, the first step I want you to do is for you to start thinking about the space that you have. Then I want you to talk to an agent. I do want you to talk to an agent. You guys know you can reach out to me for an agent, but I want you to talk to an agent about what is going to sell in the future and what may not. Now, at this point, you may need to talk to an interior designer or a decorator. This is important. An agent cannot help you plan for this, but an agent can tell you what's going to sell. But you need to see if it's actually feasible. That's what I'm doing today, is talking to an interior designer and a structural engineer who can tell me if we can take out that staircase. I want you guys to make sure you're getting some professional help with this, because your choices, your decisions may not get you the most amount of money when you go to sell. You may choose things that you like that maybe personalize the home too much. And it's hard because everybody has their own opinion. But for me, looking at thousands of pictures online, being in thousands of homes, I know what buyers really gravitate towards. And it's today's modern living with these open rooms. Now, not everything has to be open, but more of an opening, maybe a bigger doorway or an open room or more space to spread out. So if you're thinking, where the heck do I start? How do I do this? Who do I talk to? First place, go to our free private Facebook group. Our Facebook group is awesome. It's rocking. I mean, we have people in there who are talking back and forth. They're uploading their pictures. I'm giving advice on what I see. People are saying, what should I paint? What should I do with this fireplace? What should I do with my bathroom? So go ahead, join our free private group. I mean, it's awesome. And get some information. Upload your pictures. Ask us questions, because we want to be there for you and we want to help you be a profitable homeowner.